So we are back in the shop, another exciting day working on this FJ40. So like I previously mentioned, I want to completely strip this frame down and get this thing just bare frame. We still got to weld in all of our brackets and everything onto the frame, and I want to have this thing sandblasted, but there's a few things that we need to do before we tackle that. So I still haven't mounted the radiator, so I want to get the water pump, the whole accessory drive system on the front of the engine, get the radiator in place, build some brackets for that, and then I want to do something with a front bumper slash winch mount. Now it's going to be kind of tricky because I don't have a winch yet. I did order one, but I haven't got it yet, so we kind of got to build this bumper around just dimensions off their website. But this one is definitely going to be a little different than the other truck bumpers I've built, just because we're just going off the frame. It's not a big bumper that wraps around the sides. It's just basically in between the frame rails. A winch mount. It's going to be super small, super compact, but we got to make it strong for a nice heavy duty winch. So that is the game plan. I plan on chopping the front frame rails down just because there's probably 10 to 12 inches hanging off the front. We don't need that much. We need about 6 to 7 inches. Well guys, today went downhill extremely fast. I went to put on the accessory bracket. It is not fitting because this alternator, I forgot just how highly stupid alternators sit off the bracket. There's seriously like 10 inches between the alternator pulley and the power steering pulley, and the alternator is hitting my crossbar quite substantially, probably 2 inches into that crossbar I made for the shock hoop. So we have two options. We can remake the crossbar, which I really don't want to do. I have so much time into that, and I really like the look of it. Plus, it's going to be extremely close to the hood because honestly, the alternator in the factory spot sits higher. I think it's honestly higher than the intake manifold. So our next option is ICT makes a bracket where you swap the power steering pump and the alternator, but the alternator and the power steering pump are squeezed together. So like I said, you swap alternator, power steering pump, but that power steering pump is dropped like 4 inches and the alternator is kind of underneath and sucked up to the block. I think that's the game plan. That's going to save me so much time and headaches redoing this crossbar. And honestly, I do like that whole pulley system better, the ICT system, as long as it fits with my water pump, which I don't know. This is actually, I think it should. It said something about Camaro, but this water pump is for a Camaro. You can see there's no fan on that water pump. I'm doing an electric fan, so I wanted that. Plus, it's going to be a lot easier with this one with the hose routing. So we're going to use that pump, and I'm just going to order up the ICT bracket. I think that's going to be the best way to go. But honestly, I'm very upset with myself. I don't know why I didn't just double check. So I don't know, it is what it is. I'm not redoing it. We are going to work around that. Plus, you know, I think it's just gonna look a lot better. Anyway, squeezing everything together, kind of compacting the whole drive system is gonna be better in the end anyway. So I'm gonna order that bracket. We're gonna move on with mounting this radiator. Well, we are looking good for radiator. We got about 4 inches from the radiator to like the water pump and the harmonic balancer. So I found a few fans that are only about 2 3/4 to 3 inches deep. Little electric fans that we can throw on the radiator. We'll just have to make a super simple shroud, and that's gonna work perfect. So next item on the list is I want to make lift points so I can actually lift this thing in the air with my 2-post lift. So I'm gonna do basically the same thing as I did on the front. I built a little standoff off the frame so that it's nice and level. I'm gonna do that on the rear just because I want to be able to put my lift arms in between the frame and the suspension links so that when we lift up, obviously the suspension links are going to move down. So we can't lift this thing with the arms underneath the link bars just because they're gonna hit once we lift this thing off the ground. So I'm gonna make the same thing on the rear. We'll get those welded in, and then once we get this thing actually on the lift, we'll situate it, and we're gonna start on the front bumper area. Well, that is perfect, guys. We got this thing on the lift. These rear pads are working really good. Got the front on, and we're clearing the arms. That's the most important part. I wanted to be able to get the arm between the link bar and the frame. So we are completely on the lift right now, and I think that should work. Well, we are just about finished with this front bumper. Now I do want to do a tube stinger on this thing. I think it's really gonna enhance the look of it. And I do like the look of a short stinger. I'm not gonna go super tall, but we have one slight issue. I have one piece of 1 3/4 tube left, and it's only about 34 inches long, which is right on the limit of being too short for this. Now I'm gonna try to make this work because I don't feel like going to town right now. So what we're gonna do, we have to get this bend in the right spot, directly in the center of this tube. So what we can do, find the center of it, 34, half of that, 17, so we'll mark the center, and then we can go to roguefab.com. They have these calculations that you can calculate exactly how much tube is going to be used in our bend. So we're gonna do 78 degrees and times that by 0.105, we get about 8.2. So we're gonna divide that in half. We're gonna go 4.1 or about 4 1/8 out from center. That is our start and our end of our bend. And then we're gonna use our bend offset. So where we put our clamp is on this particular bender is 6 inches from the start of the bend. So we'll get our clamp there, we'll do a 78-degree bend, and then we'll have to just make our cuts on the end to make it sit flush with the bumper. Well guys, as you can see, I knew this would happen. We just don't have enough tube to actually get that bend and get it past these little step ups here. So we got two options. Either we can cut this out and kind of integrate that tube into this winch mount here, or we can make little pedestals, like little stands off of this to bring it up to this height, and then we could weld our tube onto that and then make it kind of a fancy looking little pedestal mount there. I think that might be what I'm gonna try first, because if I cut this all up and I don't like it, then it kind of ruins the whole front end of this bumper. So I think I'm gonna try to make this mount first. If that doesn't work, then I guess we're gonna have to cut. I mean, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. We'll just cut up an angle here, an angle there, and then just kind of notch this out here, which honestly, I don't know. I think that might look better. I don't know. Well, I'll figure it out one way or another. We got to make this work because I already got it bent. I've already put time into it. We're going to make it work. Well, we did it, guys. We got this hoop to look extremely good. I love it. I absolutely love how this whole bumper turned out. Now, a couple things. As far as these holes go, I bought tow hooks that I'm going to slide through. I'm going to weld the inside and the outside just to double that up. That's why I also did double up the steel on the inside. So that should be an extremely strong recovery point. Also, I did cut these. These are basically gussets that are going to run underneath the entire bumper and then up into this cross member to tie it all together. But with that angle on the back, because this cross member you can see is angled up, I'm gonna have to weld all this on afterwards. I can't get the bumper on with these on. So another thing, I am not gonna fully weld these gussets because it might be close to the winch. I don't know, I don't have my winch yet. It's on its way, but I'm gonna leave these tacked in place for now, just in case they are hitting. I may have to do a little bit of trimming here on this or the gusset. So I'm just going to leave the tube and this side gusset and everything just tacked for now, but everything else is fully welded in. I think these welds turned out really nice. I'm just going to leave the welds exposed. Obviously the ones on the bottom you can't really see, but I'm going to leave obviously all this stuff exposed weld. So I actually like the look of it. I just ground that one weld down just to kind of smooth that corner. Well, guys, bumper is done, looking absolutely perfect. I absolutely love how it turned out with the little hoop on it, and I'm excited to get my winch in and the tow hooks or the recovery hooks. That's gonna spice it up a lot. I think it's gonna look amazing once we get our winch. Now, kind of sucks I don't have my winch. I haven't got it yet. It was kind of a last minute order, so I don't have it yet, but I got all their dimensions off their website. So I did make this thing like 1 inch or more bigger than the actual dimensions that they had listed, so we shouldn't have any issues. I didn't drill my holes to mount it yet, so we can move it around in that bumper if need be, so we shouldn't have any issues there. But all in all, I'm stoked. The bumper looks really good. I'm excited to keep moving on with this thing. Well, anyways, guys, it's been a long day. I'm gonna wrap this one up here. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Why don't you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.